My name is JP, and welcome to the new series on North American man-made canals and waterways. In this series, we'll be including all the historic, present, and never completed navigation canals. However, I'm not going to include power, irrigation, or natural rivers, just the man-made navigation canals. I've always been fascinated with canals. You see, I was raised in the Canadian prairies, and when I was a kid, the only place I knew you could travel by boat was the ocean, because, well, that's all I saw in the movies. And usually in the movies, the boats were sinking or at least being hit by major storms. Then, when I was 12, we took a station wagon and drove across the country to visit my grandfather in Ontario. Driving around Lake Superior while listening to the song The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald really didn't help change my mind. But one day, for something to do, he took us to a lock station on Rideau Waterway. I was amazed as he explained to me what it was and how it worked. The fact that tucked into this absolute beautiful natural setting was this marvel of engineering that was built 150 years ago. How it was an elevator that could smoothly lift the absolute heaviest of boats. We walked around and we were looking at the boats. There were cruisers, trawlers, and houseboats. But then there's this one larger wooden sailboat that caught my attention. It had a different flag on it, and it was explained to me that it came from Europe, on the other side of the world. Again, this absolutely amazed me. We were still 1,000 kilometers from the nearest ocean. Anyways, ever since then, I've been in love with canals. Problem was, back then there was no internet, and my local library had a very limited selection of some really old books about waterways. I guess there wasn't much call for books about waterways and canals when the closest one is thousands of kilometers away. But then I found this one book which had a map showing all the canals in North America. There was over 150 different canals all over the place. So I set out dreaming of all the routes I was going to take when I grew up. The problem was, as I learned later, the map was showing all the canals of the 1850s. Most of those canals are gone today. I was completely crushed. What a waste! But at least there's still enough left to make some wonderful trips, including some amazing loop trips. Today I live on the Rideau Waterway, where I first fell in love with them. And I've completed and seen many of the canals, and I've researched and planned to complete many more. But, in the meantime, I thought I would create this video series on North American canals, past, present, and even those that were never completed. I'll attempt to do them in chronological order from the day they opened, but on occasion this just isn't practical. But most will be in chronological order. Okay, so now I'm going to dedicate this first video to those canals in North America that I consider to be the unofficial first. And on the next video, I'll start with those canals that are officially the first. Now, the canals I'm going to start talking about today are small and a bit obscure, but you have to start somewhere. There's quite a bit of debate on which were first. One of the reasons why is actually what qualifies as a man-made navigation waterway. Another reason is because of a series of ancient canals that ran along the Ottawa River in what is now Quebec, Canada. We don't know the age of them or who built them, but we do have some interesting theories. We know it was not the natives, as some of the boulders were over a ton and had deep holes drilled into them. The natives simply didn't have the know-how or the tools to accomplish this. The next theories are that the local settlers or businessmen built or had the canals built for them in the late 1700s. There is a chance that they had the military build them as a favor before the military built their own set of proper canals, but the motive why they would want them built is simply not a very strong argument for the labor it would have required to build them. Plus, there's absolutely no military record of them being built. The last theory is definitely the most interesting. Now, don't laugh, but there is evidence to suggest the Vikings built them 500 years before any of the others. Now, people laughed before the Inkstads proved that the Vikings had built a settlement at L'Anse aux Meadows, Newfoundland, which some experts believe was more of a staging area for more exploration than as a permanent settlement. And there is the fact that when Jacques Cartier, the first European explorer in the area, was told by the local natives in the 1500s stories of light-skinned people who carried swords, battle axes, etc. that had come through the area many, many years before. It is also confirmed that the Norse Vikings did indeed build trench canals throughout the lands that they explored, including throughout Scotland and Denmark, proving the Norse explorers were also canal builders. They have found Viking artifacts like spears and battle axes in the heart of Canada and the USA, for example in places like Beardmore, Ontario, Rainy River, Ontario, and Sodus Bay, New York, plus what is believed to be Viking burial mounds in Prince Edward County, Ontario. So, as you can see, it is very feasible that these canals were the first canals by about 500 years. Unfortunately, we'll never know for sure, especially now that they've been completely submerged by the building of the Carillon Dam in the 1960s.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I will be assisting on the narration of this video series. The next one is what we believe to be the second waterway, which is also highly debated. For us, it's Jeremiah's Gutter on Cape Cod. I know the word gutter doesn't sound like a canal or waterway. In fact, it makes us think of rain catchers that run along the side of house roofs. But from what the dictionary says, a gutter is a groove or channel for flowing liquids. So I guess the name is more or less accurate. Anyways, this particular gutter had a couple of other names, such as the first Cape Cod Canal and Jeremiah's Dream. Truth be told, there was already a creek running across the Cape near the border of Orleans and Eastham, but it was too small to be of any use. But one day on April 26, 1717, a 2.4-kilometer passage on land owned by Jeremiah Smith was deepened by a major storm. The resulting route was very shallow natural waterway, allowing a maximum of 20-ton boats. Then in 1804, it was widened and improved upon, which allowed use during the War of 1812. The widening and improvements is why we believe this waterway belongs in this series on canals. Proposals for a completely new canal began to take priority in the late 1800s, and the canal began to fall into disrepair. In 1916, the much larger and better located Cape Cod Canal was opened. The only remains of Jeremiah's gutters are a river and cut through the marsh. All traces of the canal from the eastern and near town cove have been removed by the construction of a highway.
I really hope you enjoyed this first installment of North American Man-Made Canals and Waterways. Our next video will be talking about the officially first canals. So if you enjoyed this video, don't miss that one. And in future installments, we'll try to cover all the man-made navigation waterways of North America, both well-known and obscure. If you have any comments, please feel free to comment below. We absolutely love hearing from you. And thank you again for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you don't miss any future videos in this series. Thank you.